Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, Ask the Mayor with Bob Hedlund.
Hey, welcome to Ask the Mayor. There's your Inquisitor and Citizen Advocate, Jim Melody.
Happy summer, Robert. By the time this one airs, it'll probably be July. It might be the July 4th episode. Could be.
What's the target date on this? When?
2 weeks to edit, so a month out.
So where are you going for the 4th of July?
What'd you think of those fireworks the other night?
Go to Trudeau's house. You got to go down to Donnie Trudeau. Don Trudeau, congratulations on being elected president of Weymouth Rotary this year.
Donnie Norton's band killed it the other night. They were awesome.
When am I going to get booked? And up with Donnie Norton's band.
I especially love their version of Separate Ways, Worlds Apart by Journey.
Do they? Actually, I'd like to see that one. All right, he's back. I'm out. All right. We want to remind everybody before we get going, this show is only as good as the questions that come our way, so please send the questions to askmayorbob@gmail.com. Robert, summer's in full bloom. The high school kids have just graduated. How'd that ceremony go?
That was what, like a month ago now?
Yeah, how did it go?
Excellent.
Outstanding.
I watched it on TV. Ted was there in my stead.
Oh, that's right, Ted's in the cap and gown.
Yep.
Valedictorian again for 4 years running, or is this 6 for Ted?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Valedictorian, no.
he's back to school. Let's get to Bob. I know you
Who was your valedictorian?
hate my jib jab. I was an attendee. I don't even think I graduated. No, who was that? Rick McConkey, the great Rick McConkey, was our class president from your neck of the woods, Mayor, North Weymouth. I don't know who the hell the valedictorian was. I don't think we had one. We all tied for last, if I recall. There were 400, I can say this much, there was about 425 kids in our graduating class, which is when I went to Weymouth North, and I think there was about 420 from Weymouth South. And now, isn't the entire graduating class for Weymouth High School 420 kids approximately? It's even under that? Holy smokes. Where have all the children gone? All right, let's get reproducing, Weymouth. That's our first order of business here at Ask the Mayor. We need children. We got bedrooms without kids, apparently. All right, Robert, from Beverly D. Morant. And there's apparently lots of empty buildings. Dear Mayor Hedlund, since you have become mayor, you've built a new Tufts Library and a new Chapman Middle School. But as these new buildings have filled up, several buildings have gone offline. Number one, with most of the resources going to the new Tufts Library and the Landing, what will become of the Pratt, the North, and the Fogg libraries? I'll ask you them all, and then I'll give you a chance to answer. That was number one. Number two, also, the school administration team has left 111 Middle Street for new offices in the Adams building. So what is going to happen to the old 111, which is my birthday, by the way, November 1st, 111? And finally, what will become of the Johnson School when students and staff move to the Adams building? Lest we remember years ago when Central Junior High on Broad Street was left to deteriorate, lots of residents were angry that the town just let these old buildings, old public buildings rot into eyesores. Is there a plan in place for these retiring buildings? But geez, Bob, let's start at the end. Central Junior High School became a phenomenally successul older person's living
Yeah,
space,
but
right?
they let the building just completely
Oh, for years
decay.
it was, okay, maybe that's when I was out of town. All right, so Robert, let's go 1, 2, 3. With most of the resources going to the new Tufts Library and the Landing, what will become of the Pratt, the North, and the Fogg? You have addressed some of these in the past.
Fogg continues on. Great facility, historic building.
Yeah, lovely.
Newly remodeled in the second term of the Kay administration.
Looks like $1 million.
We made a decision, given the significant cost of Tufts and building a real flagship library for the town, that we couldn't support 4 libraries. And I've told the story before that we had more libraries in our town per capita than any community in Massachusetts,
Wow.
except for Springfield and Barnstable.
What a stat.
Yeah. Most communities don't have that many libraries. I mean, look around. I mean, Hingham's got one, So the idea was, and we knew that the Tufts building was problematic. I won't go into detail how messed up that was. But if we were going to go through the effort of building a new library, it would be a true flagship. And we had to meet certain parameters to get the state grant that we got for it too. So we knew we were going to close 2. The usage at both of those, both Pratt and North Weymouth, was was minimal. The hours that it was open was minimal. We haven't really gotten any complaints about Pratt being closed, and I know that WETC has their facilities underneath in the basement. How often did you see people go into Pratt not counting Bob Montgomery Thomas? Never?
Next to never.
But of course, North Weymouth being North Weymouth, they're very protective and parochial about things. And
So we've heard.
we did hear a few people complain about that, but it hasn't been significant. Where we stand with that library, we delayed plans for that a little bit because the town, with all the changes that Beverly mentions, with the new school, the new library, the headquarters for the school department being abandoned, there's been a lot of moving around, so we did kind of an overall town office space needs assessment, and school department during all that process decided they were going to move their administration into Adams as part of the long-term plan for that building. We kind of delayed what we had planned for the North Weymouth branch throughout that process. We've determined that there is really no need for any particular town department to take over that building. So the original plan will take effect, which was to put an RFP out to get some feedback from, and test the market, test what the needs might be for either nonprofits or for-profits to utilize that building. It's not going to be redeveloped into residential or anything like that. Personally, I think it might make a good, daycare center, for instance, things along those lines. But we're going to determine, based on the RFP responses, what the best, highest and best use for the town would be. We're not necessarily looking for the most profitable. There'll be other factors involved in the RFP. I think community need will be the major factor. So that's actually going out any day now, and I'm hoping it'll be out before the show airs. We expect to get input from the district councilor who lives around the corner from it and residents. So that'll be a very open and public process. In terms of
School administration building, school administration has left 111 middle for the new ones. What is going to happen?
so we got a little bit of a space crunch in town hall for a few of the departments. And I think we're going to be realigning a couple things, and you're probably going to see that used by executive branch departments.
Okay. That's not a very big building.
We're not sure
So
exactly. I
that's
mean,
concerned,
it could be that the planning department might go over there, or another department. We'll see.
That's probably the
But that's
smallest.
it definitely is going to be used as we sort of rejigger town departments.
And of these three buildings, that's the smallest one by far, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty small.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then finally, what will become of the Johnson School when students and staff move to the Adams building?
That's a good question, and that's yet to be determined. Different town departments that like to build empires have their sights set on it.
Kingdoms, they are a lot of little kingdoms.
Recreation's got an idea for it, but it's expensive, so we're going to see.
Steve wants a game room. All right.
Oh, and by the way, Recreation actually has left the old police station.
I didn't
They
know.
had a wicked cramped situation over there.
When they go up
Yeah, I
to-
mean, Steve was basically in a closet.
No, I
Steve
saw
Riley
it.
was.
Yeah, no doubt.
So we decided when we did Osprey Overlook Park that we didn't want to tear down the old animal
Oh, no kidding.
pound, the dog pound.
Sure.
It was too good of a building to tear down. We saved that. That was actually being used by the school transportation department during the building of Chapman. And now Recreation has relocated their headquarters there, which fits nice. Steve's got a much better view now and a little more space, but it kind of fits with their programming. We're making progress finally with the MBTA on the Durante property, and it's been helpful having Recreation down there to kind of keep an eye on things at Osprey, and it's chased away between having Recreation there and taking the incinerator down. It's pushed a little of the miscreant use out of there. And with the plans that we have for the Durante property with a kayak launch, it's going to be perfect. You can probably eventually go to the recreation office, rent a kayak, and go right out on the back river from there.
How cool is that?
So it's a nice fit. It's a good fit.
Speaking for all the miscreants in town, we're not happy with that, the development down there. But Bob, that being said, the next logical question would be, what's going to happen to the old police station then if Weymouth Rec moved out?
Well, they didn't really take much space up there. I mean, it's being used by the teen center.
Oh, so it'll still be the teen center. That's
Youth
not
and
going to
Family
change.
Service Office, so they'll continue to use it.
Excellent. All right, wow, an involved question, a lot of involved answers, and plenty going on as far as that's concerned. Robert, we're always talking water in this town, so this one's about MWRA water from James Hanover. Boy, we've had a lot of nouns and geographic locations here as far as our question is concerned. Hello, Mayor Hedlund and Jim Melody. If the town council votes and passes joining the MWRA for our water supply, who would be responsible for paying for the pipeline to be run from Quabbin Reservoir? I heard it could cost between $50 and $80 million. I thought it was going to be whoever developed the old Naval Air Station had to pay for it, not the residents of Weymouth. Please clarify. Thank you, Jim Hanover, who hopefully lives in Hanover, if we're going to be on the hook for $50 to $80 million.
Yeah, his premise is correct. And originally, the direction this was going in was that the developers were out there kind of on their own looking for a water source. And yes, they would have had to pay for that. Obviously, with the town now going in that direction, we'll be sharing costs with the developer. Good example of that thus far is the $360,000 that was required to engage the consultants for the 2-year application process. We shared the costs with them and the SRA, so there's 3 parties involved in funding that $360,000. I think that was the number, correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of the actual capital cost for the work, yet to be determined. Obviously, the developer will still be involved in that. The state is kind of, if you watch the, are you going to do a development, weren't you going to do a development update and just take out? I did. Has it been running? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you go to the WETC website, what's it called? Development update, MWRA water?
I think so. You can search it.
If it doesn't, they're going to change it now that we've broadcast that to the tens of thousands of viewers that tune in religiously to the show. So there'll be costs borne by the developer. I'm sure costs borne by the town, but the wild card in this is the state. And of course, our Speaker of the House of Representatives, that represents part of Weymouth, Ron Mariano, is very interested in this. And we would hope that for a whole myriad of reasons, environmental that we've been touting, that the state would play a role in assisting us. The MWRA has been cooperative thus far and has already waived the roughly $28 million application fee.
Holy smokes.
So we think that there'll be some state participation, especially if the long-term plan could be to get communities south of us also plugged in. Sure. And if it's taking that shape, then we expect state participation or MWRA participation. What's interesting about it is the available capacity right now is, because of infrastructure constraints in the Blue Hills, really only enough to supply SRA, i.e. Union Point, and the town of Weymouth. There wouldn't be anything left over for Hingham or Norwell or other communities to the south of us that need more water, unless upgrades were made over in the Blue Hills on the other side of where we would tap in. So I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, no doubt, but that's what my follow-up question was. There's no existing infrastructure that we could just tap into. It all would have to be constructed brand new, huh?
See, there's 3 options that you can see when you watch the development update piece. There's basically 3 options that are narrowed down to. One is under the Fore River Bridge, which wouldn't be enough to supply the whole town. It would only be a partial. And then a link from the Blue Hills from 2 or 3 different routes that have been identified.
So this would be at least 10 years down the line, though, as for the completion of something along these
yeah,
lines, huh?
8 to 10 years, exactly. I mean, the application process in and of itself is 2 years. Then you've got the permitting and engineering, and then the actual construction.
And the application fee alone is $25 million, whatever the heck you said?
Well, the application process, it's not just like
It's a
filling
process,
out a form like you get in a library card or something. I mean, this covers all of the due diligence is sort of baked into that in terms of routes, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the permitting elements of that.
Son of a gun. Bob, as everyone knows who watches our show regularly, we don't see these questions in advance. And Robert, you do a great job handling these off the top of your head. And this one is a redundant one. It's from Helen. Just so you know, we did get it. Helen Drozdowski was asking, what are we doing with the closed library in Jackson Square, which you've already made semi-clear.
Well, we talked more about Tufts than we did talk Jackson Square.
We just talked about nobody goes to that.
Do you want to come over and explain what's going on with you guys there? I mean, part of the problem is WETC has invested a huge amount of money in infrastructure with the studio they have there. So that's going to impact what we do with the place also. There are restrictions on that. Unlike Tufts, Pratt was through a gift to the town, and it has certain restrictions because of the origination of the money. When
So
it
you
was
could
given
just
to
sell
the
it to the
town
cable
via,
company.
was it Mr. Pratt, right? Laban Pratt? So anyway, well, he was involved. I'm going to get my head chopped off if I get this wrong by John Coffey. No, but he was behind the origination of the hospital too, I believe, right?
The Pratt family?
Laban Pratt himself. You'll see references to him all around town. There's a monument for him at the corner of Church and Commercial. He paid for some fountains for horses around town. And there's
What
one,
would that
and
be?
there's
Is
one
that like
there.
that landscaping bee?
Yeah, you can see one there, and I think there's another one or two more in town. Sorry, John Coffey. Sorry, Jim Clark. But email us, and I'll correct it next show.
Well, we can do a follow-up. We'll explain
but
to folks as significant as
For
the
us to
Pratts.
change the use of that would require legislation and going to the state to undo it.
Jeez, no kidding, huh?
Same thing with fog, I believe. But we're not constrained with Tufts or North Weymouth.
While we want to encourage everybody to keep the questions coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com, because even I learned quite a few things when we come to the town. It's interesting what the town's involved in and what it's not involved in, all the little hoops and hurdles that, involved with a lot of these projects that you would never, ever think of, needless to say. Or I know I wouldn't. Okay, Robert, Jackson Square, more development questions. Jackson Square development from Anonymous. Hi, Mayor. It's been a year since the town approved a mixed-use building for Lower Jackson Square for the gas station on Water Street owned by the Metries. Why hasn't it started? There were many meetings discussing zoning changes, but little has been done. It seems like Jackson Square's hit the pause button. What's going on here?
Hit the pause button? Yeah, sort of.
So is this
And I've learned since I became mayor about the Metry family and who owns what, because there's a number of brothers. But that particular one, yes, the developer was Metry. You're looking puzzled, Jim.
Well, because first of all, I just want to be clear. There's two gas stations in Jackson Square, not the one at the V, the Zitco, right? Is it the one by the 7-Eleven?
Correct.
Okay, that I know.
Now
I was actually following that project.
The one that is
Residential building's
the
gonna be
Citgo
replaced
is
there,
owned
yeah.
by Metry's brother, I believe, Abe.
Are they Weymouth folks, the Metries?
Well, Abe currently is on hiatus in Lebanon, but
son
he
of a
owns
gun.
it.
Okay.
But Metry's very active around town, as people know. He owns the gas station in the Landing also.
Oh, okay.
He's got another brother that has another gas station in Weymouth. So
Well, there you go.
you need a scorecard here, right?
I can't tell the Metries without a scorecard.
So we were in the process of rezoning Jackson Square. Metry decided he didn't want to wait for the rezoning. He would take his chances with the BZA, and he was initially rebuffed by the neighbors. They worked together. The neighborhood finally came out in support of a scaled-down version, which was what was approved. And the Anonymous is correct that nothing has happened there. The latest I've heard is that I discussed too much personal business over the airwaves, but probably like a lot of developers right now, even homeowners, are finding that in this climate, financing is a little bit of a problem. Interest rates, as you know, have skyrocketed due to the inflationary policies of multiple administrations at the national level, and our Federal Reserve that pumped a lot of money into the money supply and other factors, but interest rates are high, and I think that scaled-down version has been economically questionable in this financing environment, so he has paused that. Now, the rest of the square, which as we've talked about on the show, another local, someone new to the development game, Eric Papachristos, who has made his mark in the hospitality industry.
Doing a great job.
Local guy that has made good, who came back to Weymouth to invest in the community, has bought up a number of properties in Jackson Square. I'm sure he's feeling the pinch too, but he's further, back in the pipeline as he is now working on permitting related issues and actually design issues. He does not have ZBA approval for any of his sites yet.
Bob, when someone does get the approval that was granted the MetroZip for that project, is there a term? Do you have to do it within 12 months?
Excellent question. Yeah, I forget if it's, it could be 2 years, I think, if memory serves me correct.
And then you've got to reapply if you don't get the shovels on the ground?
Yeah, your permit and approvals would expire over a period of time.
Reasonable. So, interesting. So, but essentially, once they get the approval, you don't really monitor it any more or less than unless they have to come back in 2 years to say, hey, we need some help.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces in Jackson Square. Sadly, we have been working very hard with the owner of the Citgo station, as a matter of fact, to actually get that station out of there and purchase that piece of property. And unfortunately, we couldn't arrive at a number within reason. We had an appraisal.
Sorry for interrupting. The town would have bought him out, huh?
It would have been an opportune time, I think, for the town and for the owner of the station with all the development that's going to happen down there. And we're in the process of getting design work done on replacing, it's called a bridge in the eyes of the state, but the culvert that runs where the herring run is at Nico's. Sure. And it basically goes under the gas station property.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And we're going to be ripping everything up down there to replace that failing culvert, i.e. bridge. And it would have been a great time for the owner of that station to sell, because I think once that development happens around him, there's no redevelopment potential for his site. The site's small. I think it's going to impact his business adversely when the development happens around him. And it's going to look very out of place under the new Jackson Square that will rise up, and having that anomaly gas station sitting there on top of the herring run. And we worked extremely hard and negotiated in good faith. We even had a private benefactor that was going to kick in some money, so we actually raised our price twice.
Wow.
And finally, our highest and best for the third time was not accepted. And there's only so much you can do within reason in these circumstances.
Did the town have a specific idea what they wanted to do with that property? Make it more parkland?
Well, you have adjacent to it, you have a herring run
park.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe make it a little bit more bigger.
And we would extend that over. You'd remove an environmental hazard.
It would look phenomenal.
You have literally gas tanks sitting on top
I
of
was
the
going to say,
herring
how the
run.
hell did they get approved in the first place?
Well, back in the day think about all the automotive use down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the waterfront was always industrial. I mean, that was the evolution over time.
Yeah.
Go up the river and you can look at.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you got the old Ted's Transmission was a gas station. You got where the used car lot, I think, was originally a gas station. You got 2 gas stations now. You got All Make Auto Repair was probably. I mean, at one time you probably had 5 gas stations. Nico's was Quincy Oil gas station. I remember going there as a little kid. And then you go on the backside of the river there, and you had a power plant, the wool making facility, the woolen mill,
crap.
shoe factories. I mean, that was the wasteland back in the day.
The times, they are a-changing. Wow, we want to keep remind everybody to keep the questions coming to askmayorbob@gmail.com. But Bob, if you can believe it, we are getting to the end of this one as well. And I only have a couple more questions for you. And of course, we wouldn't have a show without someone reaching out from the sovereign state of North Weymouth. So Robert, dear Mayor, from the sovereign state of North Weymouth, I wanted to thank you for the... I'm always shocked when someone's thanking you. I wanted to thank you for the beautiful...
Can we frame that?
It looks like I wrote it myself. From the sovereign state of North Weymouth, I wanted to thank you for the beautiful renovation work planned for Beals Park. We are really looking forward to those pickleball courts. But as we...
Hold on, correction.
The but.
Pickleball court, singular.
Court, okay, I'll take the answer of that. Just so you know, Melissa, this is from Melissa. But as we move forward in this wonderful coastal community, I think it would be great to see some attention given to the Route 3 corridor. The other town squares have been revitalized, but good old Bicknell Square looks like it's stuck in some old rundown time warp. I know you don't want to hear the mention of the billboards, but they're still there. And you know the list of ugly, blighted businesses that I won't mention there. I believe there was a review by the town planners with some consultants in the past few years. Was there a report prepared? Do you know of anything that can be done to show some love to this beautiful end of town that is not the beach or connected to the waterfront, but is certainly worth preserving? Thank you from Melissa.
So, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
That's a theme of the last few questions.
We've done all kinds of incentives. The overlay, which runs from U-Haul to Hingham Line, has been done, but you got owners of some unsightly properties that just do not want to sell.
They won't budge.
And people have been knocking on their door and would like to sell. Would love to see Panda Rug redeveloped. He has no interest in that. The billboards, as far as the billboards go, we're in litigation with the billboard operator right now, but you will see those billboards, I'm confident to say, removed at some point. There's some ongoing work right now in the pipeline. Yet another study on Route 3A is being done through a grant. The state has some plans for upgrades, aesthetics, and safety improvements from the bridge down into Hingham on Route 3A. That hopefully will be happening soon. I worked very hard as a legislator to try to sync that up with the bridge work, but the design work was so far ahead on the bridge they couldn't do that. The Beals Park, we hope, spurs some further investment. We've found the Jackson Square thing that we talked about earlier in the show, by the way, wouldn't have happened without the public investment that was made with Level Field and some of the other improvements, which inspired Papa Christos to take that leap and make that.
So they work together.
It's going to be a $100 million reinvestment into Jackson Square. So we're hoping that, Beals Park has a similar effect. The handicap we have on Route 3A is the commercial properties are not deep. There's very little redevelopment potential for any of those sites because you have neighborhoods butting up the back of those properties, which is why the overlay did not extend from U-Haul to the Fall River Bridge. Now, despite that, there has been investment up there. We've seen the old abandoned gas station over by C Street, North Street, excuse me, has been redeveloped. And I think that building is aesthetically pleasing when you drive by. You got the Coonsey Adams Garden Center, old Chiminiello oil site that will be redeveloped. That's already approved. I think they just started a little site work there. That building is going to be a huge improvement. First floor kitchen design center will sync up nice with Republic Plumbing Design Center there.
New owners of the Cliffhanger?
Yep, and they're busy now. And then the Cigar City site just changed hands. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see some investment in that site, but unfortunately, that's very not deep at all, and he's limited in what he can do. He came in with some ideas that he can't do under the current zoning, but you'll see some reinvestment in that property. So there's some things happening slowly. I know the Ledger did an interesting story that covered all of this. And I think actually we should do a GoFundMe for Jim Melody and get him a Patriot Ledger subscription so that you're better prepared for a lot of these questions. And they're not a surprise to you when they come in. Because
I must say, my retort to that was, I cannot get to 3 sentences on the Patriot Ledger. It leans so far left, it's off the charts, and it's not a local writer anymore. It's all news feeds.
It is interesting. On Saturdays, you get a lot of opinion stuff. And I actually had a conversation with the editor over there. It's fed to them by their parent company, Gannett. And yeah, the Gannett editorial board definitely, or their contributors, definitely take a little bit of a leftward slant.
People miss the Weymouth news, but the times they are a-changing was the theme a little earlier. All right, looks like we got to wrap this episode up. Once again, thanks everybody for the questions. Keep them coming at askmayorbob@gmail.com. Hope everybody has a great summer, and we want to encourage everybody to tune into. This could be a first. McHale's Navy. Have we said McHale's Navy yet?
Surprised if we haven't.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.